I'm here today to give you an insight into careers in digital aviation, and I'm delighted to be virtually joined by Graham Braithwaite, Cranfield Digital Aviation Lead, Carl Harris from Boeing, Lead Line and Base Maintenance, and Jim Williams, Blue Bear Systems, who is an aerospace software engineer and Cranfield alumni. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, Graham, I'd like you to start. Could you give us an overview, please, of what digital aviation means, and also tell us a little bit more about Dartec?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for letting me be part of this. So a few years ago, we'd asked the question around campus, what is digital aviation? And most of us didn't really know. And very quickly, we realized that it actually means a whole range of different things for different bits of the industry. So for some, it's about how you take the power in a phone or in a smartphone app to help somebody guide them way through the experience of traveling by plane somewhere. For others, it's about how do you take the power of sensors to allow us to do maintenance quite differently, or how do we control air traffic differently so that we can unleash the potential of things like drones into the airspace. So it means lots of things, but ultimately it's about how you take the power of data and do something with it. And so we got together with some industry partners to enter a competition which was run by the government, a research agency called Research England, to see if we could build this digital aviation research centre at Cranfield. And I'm pleased to say we won through that competition, and the building is actually going up as we speak. But the capability is about how we use our really unusual feature as a university, which is the fact that we own and operate an airport. We also run the air traffic control at that airport, and we have things that fly, whether they're drones, whether they're aeroplanes, that we can also operate there. So this is a very, very hands-on bit of research, and the Digital Aviation Research and Technology Centre brings together some of the very well-established players in the industry, like Boeing, but also some really exciting startup companies out there as well. So Blue Bear Systems is a great example of that, doing some really cool stuff around drones, but also what we call unmanned traffic management. So how these vehicles interact with each other to stay safe in the air. So that's what Dartec's all about.
Excellent. That is absolutely fascinating. And, you know, it's amazing to think the impact that ultimately it's going to have on the future of aviation. Okay, so you mentioned some of the partners. As I said, I'm delighted that we're joined by Carl from Boeing. Carl, could you just give us a little bit of an insight into what you currently do at Boeing?
Hi, morning, Katrina. Thanks for the opportunity to take part in this. Yeah, so I'm a lead line and base maintenance engineer. So what that means is we basically look after some light and heavy maintenance of aircraft for our customers across Europe and worldwide. So I lead a small team, 7 highly skilled line and base engineers, and we look after the delivery, the oversight, performance management of our aircraft maintenance network. Really with a focus firstly and foremost on safety, but also quality of delivery for our customers every time. So it's a really fast-paced and exciting position, and it involves liaising with multiple stakeholders on a daily basis, and no day is the same day. So we have different challenges every day, but it's a really good position, and it's something that Boeing really sort of looks to deliver across for our customers.
Excellent. How did you end up in a position like that, Carl?
Yeah, so my background, education to start with, I came through an aviation academy in Newcastle Airport, northeast of England. From there, I took on a university degree, aircraft engineering. Luckily enough, when the degree finished, British Airways were recruiting at Heathrow. Nice. So I managed to get a position hands-on on the aircraft, so working 777, 787, Airbus A380. And from there, I took a few opportunities, projects, liaising with different parts of the business, and was able to progress my career. obviously ended up with Boeing where I am now, and it's certainly put me in good stead. Firstly, the education, but also obviously hands-on experience is second to none. So we've got sort of a balance of both, which is great.
Yeah, you're right. That's so important to have that balance, to have that education, but also have that hands-on experience as well, and be developing your network at the same time. So how do you see your career developing?
So as I mentioned, it's been sort of a steady progression with the education, which was a really good grounding, not only just from a technical and a knowledge perspective, but also really understanding some life skills. I think the education piece brings you out of being at school where you don't generally want to be there, where you tend to progress further. You want to be part of that education piece, and that gave me a really good grounding. I had some fantastic lecturers who really brought me up. So I've sort of progressed now to a lead position, but I think going forward, I really want to be in a senior operational role where I've got a real focus on continuous improvement and delivering, firstly, safe aircraft maintenance services, but also a really good product for our customers.
Okay, no, that's absolutely brilliant, and really important for you, so you can see how things are developing on a personal basis as well. Jyns, just moving across to Jyns. So we're joined by Jyns from Blue Bear Systems and also Cranfield alumni. Jyns, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do as an aerospace engineer?
Yep, no problem. Hi, thanks for having me here today. So I left Cranfield about 1.5 years ago to join Blue Bear Systems, and I've been really lucky actually. During my work with the company, I've been involved with projects to do with our aircraft maintenance, drone technology, as well as the agricultural technology. And now I'm working on the build-up currently of our new VTOL aircraft, which has got some amazing software aboard it. I'm sure you're aware that Blue Bear does a lot of swarm technology, as Graham mentioned earlier. So from my part, it's been amazing to see a lot of different advancements in the ways that unmanned aircraft and especially UAVs, where you can just set them a mission and they go about it with very little input from a manual pilot. It's really good to see all the different areas of the different sectors that this can benefit.
Okay, that sounds amazing. So what do you tend to do on a day-to-day basis? How does your day vary?
Well, the first thing I do each day is normally check the weather, because if the weather's any good, we will be going out to the field with one aircraft or another. Unfortunately, today the wind has taken against us slightly, which means that most of the time I'll be either in the workshop or in the office developing different kinds of code, whether that's code that runs on the vehicle itself to help with the autonomy of the tasks or the communications on board, from its various sensors to its controller, or I'll be working on the ground control station software, which is how we get a GUI representation of what our aircraft is thinking at any one time, and then all the communication protocols in between.
Okay, no, that's brilliant, and it's really interesting to see, the difference between your role and Carl's, and they're both pivotal to moving forward with digital aviation. There's that really good combination. Both started off as engineers, but have diversified slightly into what you currently do. So I guess on that note, Jyns, how do you see your career developing?
I think, again, Blue Bear has been quite a good opportunity for me in this regard, because previous companies where I've worked with, I've ended up in quite a regimented role. Whereas
Right.
Due to the nature of Blue Bear being quite a heavy research company, I've actually been talking about maybe doing further work with Cranfield in the future, so maybe a PhD while working here. But effectively, I just want to keep going down the research route. I'm really fascinated with some of the technologies that are coming forwards at the moment, especially to do with swarm technology, as Graham was mentioning, and as you were saying earlier about vehicles being aware of one another in the aerospace and being able to understand that. Because I think moving forwards, especially with commercial drone technology such as delivery, that's going to be a really interesting idea and a problem of how we keep the airspace deconflicted.
Definitely, and there are all these things and aspects that perhaps some of us haven't considered, but listening to you guys today, it's really important to make sure that we are making such good progress. I'm going to ask you both, Carl and Jyns, but I'll come to you first, Carl. What impact do you see your organisation making on the future of flight?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. The first and foremost, and it always will be, is really to uphold engineering excellence. So we lead the way in safety, quality, and integrity. But I think there's a real societal shift at the moment to becoming sustainable in our day-to-day lives, and I think Boeing as a company can really play a central role in doing that. Certainly accelerating new technologies, biofuels, electrical propulsion, and really sort of reduce the overall footprint that not just the company but also aviation as a whole has on a more sustainable way of living. I think that's really important for the future of aviation. There's a lot of pressure, I think, to do that across Europe, particularly, and I think companies like Boeing and certainly the work going on at Cranfield can really support the industry becoming sustainable.
Definitely. Jyn, what are your thoughts? How do you see Blue Bear making an impact on the future of flight?
I think Blue Bear is going to have an impact, again, in a lot of different sectors. I think it will be quite small impacts in a lot of different areas. So again, I'm interested to see where commercially things go, where drones just become more normal in everyday life. And we've already seen interesting legislation come in about ensuring that your drones have the right serial codes on, so that if one for a normal pilot was to go missing, or to fall out of touch with base, you've still got an idea of where that comes from. And with the deconfliction, I think that's going to be really fascinating for Blue Bear to get involved in those sort of projects, so that where airspace becomes more normalized for lots of companies to have drones up, we're still keeping the safety requirements in place for those sort of ideas. And I also think, so one of the projects that I was lucky enough to work on was the idea of using agricultural drones for farmers who are not as able to get out onto their land as they would have previously, to be able to use drone technology to keep an eye on livestock or field health at any one time, including projects to do with spraying of certain crop management solutions. So I think that sort of area is going to be really interesting in the few years to come.
Excellent. No, and that's a great insight for everybody today. So thank you both for that. I think one of the key things that is really important that we focus on is advice. I think you two are here today, and you're being very informative, inspirational, and motivational as well. So what advice do you have for anyone starting out, anybody who's thinking about a career in digital aviation? Carl, could we perhaps have some thoughts from yourself first?
Yeah, sure. So I was given 3 key pieces of advice by one of my lecturers during my education, and the first one was find time to further your learning and your education. So we all get caught up day to day with our daily duties, and we think, right, we have to get this job done. But in order to progress it and to become to further your career, you do need to make time to learn some of those extra skills and expertise. So that was the first piece. The second piece of advice was consider each and every opportunity presented to you. So there's a lot of opportunities will arise through your career, and I think some of those look more appealing than others. I think it's really important to consider all of them. I've taken a couple of opportunities which, on face value, either to my peers or to myself, weren't necessarily what I wanted to be doing, but actually what they did for me was really progress my career. So I made a bigger network. I learned new things, some things that I maybe would never have really looked at taking on. So that's really important. And finally, really value your network. So your network should be valued in the same manner as your career. Whether or not it's support with a current project, or whether or not it's connections for a future opportunity, your network is really priceless. And that should be something that you take on from education all the way through to where you are. And a proven story of that is one of my lecturers at university when I started out ended up being my lead within Boeing. So that was sort of a real good story, and he taught me a lot in education, but he also taught me a lot out in the field. So definitely network, every opportunity, and also education as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good advice. And I think it's probably worth saying that we do know for a fact that 70% of jobs aren't advertised, and it is down to your network and making those connections. And I guess that comes down to the art of, good communication. So really, really good points there, Carl. Thanks. Jyn, what thoughts have you got? What advice have you got for anybody starting out?
I think Carl has covered it absolutely brilliantly, absolutely hit the nail on the head on all 3 points. I think the only things I would add, from a slightly more personal point of view, it's don't be scared to make the jump. So I initially started at university doing an automotive engineering degree and went to work for Triumph Motorcycles. And that was purely because even though I'd always wanted to be in aerospace, due to dyslexia being found a little late, I didn't get the grades that I'd wanted. So I didn't think that I was smart enough to do that. And it wasn't until I took the leap to make the application to Cranfield and the support that I got through my time at Cranfield. And funnily enough, as Carl says, running in someone you didn't expect, my thesis supervisor for my undergrad for automotive engineering was Adrian, who I then ran into at Cranfield again. And it's thanks to keeping those links up, making the leaps that you don't necessarily think that you can make. And it's only through doing that and only through keeping pushing yourself do you find that actually you have skills that you never even realized were there. And I think making sure that you find the support group around you to keep yourself growing is so important. If the company that you're with is not helping you grow as an individual, then find something that works for you so that you can give back properly. And I think finding that support team around you is very important.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jyn, and that's so well said. I know as a career professional, it's so important for me to see that, we all reach our potential, whatever that potential is. And I know working within Cranfield University's Career Development Service, we pride ourselves on being able to empower the students to complement their academic achievements, to make sure that they get to where they want to in life, because there is so much potential out there. And, you guys are great examples of that as well. So, no, it's absolutely wonderful that you can share your experiences today. Graham, just out of interest, have you got any advice for anybody starting out in digital aviation?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to say is that the topic is really quite broad and therefore supports a real diversity of skills. And so the people that I think will succeed are the ones who are genuinely interested and enthusiastic about the topic. I think if you do something you love, it rarely feels like working. But when I look at the skill sets we need, they range from people who are happy to be head down coding through to people who are involved in social sciences and everything in between. And I think that diversity is one of the things that really attracted me to the aviation industry, because there are so many different people from different parts of the world. That's such a joy when you get to meet them, experience those different perspectives on the world. But it also means that all of us have got something that could potentially contribute. And so when you're interested in people as well, I think the thing to bear in mind is that nobody gets employed solely on their CV. It's very much about how they communicate with people, how they interact with people. That's the other side of it. So be yourself and get the job that suits you, and you should feel pretty happy doing it as a consequence.
Definitely. And academically, because I guess, we are going to have lots of people today that are at different stages, either of their career, of their education. What are the key things? I'm putting this question out to the three of you. What do you think are the key things that they should be thinking about academically? To perhaps start off with you, Graham. What is it?
So I think this idea that we're on a lifelong learning journey is really, really important. That there will, as you progress through your career, there are different skills, but also as the technology changes, as the customers change out there, we've got to keep up somehow. And one of the great joys of working at a university that deals particularly with postgraduates is you get people who've had part of a career, or they've started out in their career and now they want to do something different with it. And I think there's a real joy in being part of that journey with people, as they learn new things or how to apply skill sets they've got in one industry across to a different industry. So when Jyn talked about coming from automotive into aerospace, I think that's a fabulous example of where you can bring all of that experience from one sector and redirect it into a new one.
Definitely no. Carl, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, but also, you know, at what stage of your education did you decide that aerospace, digital aviation was something that you wanted to pursue a career in?
Yeah, so my background, I left school and I didn't really have a focus on aviation. I had a focus on engineering. I've got an engineering family background, but certainly wasn't focused towards aviation. And I think if I had some advice there, I think, like Graham said there, you need to go out there and explore some of those other opportunities that maybe aren't typical to your family background or what you think of in day to day. And I stumbled across aviation, really, to be honest. But once I did, I realised 100% that's exactly what I wanted to do. And it's such a diverse industry where you can learn so much. I mean, that you can never stop learning. Every day is a new day. So I think if for people or students who are starting out, really look for those opportunities where you think, I love this as a job. Rather than be sort of siloed into something that you maybe typically have been through a school or family background. Step outside comfort zones, look for those things that you're going to enjoy doing. And if you enjoy them, I think it's already been mentioned previously, but if you enjoy them, the work becomes a little easier. It's still work, let's be honest. We still go to work, but if you enjoy it, it goes a real long way in both day-to-day working, but also your career progression, because you want to and you're motivated to do more. So that's really important.
Definitely. No, that sounds, you know, really a quite key message to get across. Jyn, have you got anything else that you would like to add to that?
So I think for me, as throwing yourself into the academics is utterly important. And my time in studying a master's was the very typical library until 2 a.m, nose in 3 books at a time. But thinking for younger people, maybe find the way that you learn best. So if you learn best by being hands-on with something, make sure that while you're learning, you're hands-on. If you learn best from writing everything down, then do that. And secondary to that is when you're thinking about hobbies or when you're getting into tasks, first, throw yourself in head first. If it's something you love, utterly go for it. But you will be surprised at how many hobbies later on come back to help you in ways that you weren't ever expecting it to. So, you know, when I was younger, I used to play a sport called airsoft, and I've done go-karting at times. And it's funny how all those little experiences that you wouldn't expect, being out in a muddy field was one of the things that got me through my interview here, because they knew that they need people who need to go out in all weathers. So it's not just about making sure that your CV is academically as filled out as you can. Make sure that you yourself are enriching every part of what you do, because it is amazing, as Graham said, about the shared knowledge from one thing to another that you never would have expected just from a purely academic point of view.
Again, that is really good advice. You know, again, as you say with your CV, the transferable skills that come out from your extracurricular activities, your sporting activities, those other positions of responsibility as well. And again, it makes you more of a rounded individual. And, you know, again, it enhances what you can bring to the table. And as you've illustrated, Jyn, you know, can quite clearly help you in an interview situation as well. That's absolutely brilliant, both of you. Thank you so much. Graham, I'm really inspired by the talent and enthusiasm that we've got here today, and also the work of Dartech, which you shared with us as well. Have you got any final thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I just encourage people to find out a bit more about the different roles that exist within aviation. You know, classically people think, well, I'm going to be a pilot or I'm going to be an engineer, and there is so much more to the profession. And yet there's something happening in aviation that's particularly exciting at the moment. And I think it's that combination of the challenge around sustainability, but also the things that we can now do thanks to the technology and the things that we can do in drones or in indeed how we've taken aeroplanes into this amazing technologically advanced state where it can tell us what maintenance it needs, or it can tell us things about the passengers or the pilots. It's such an exciting time to be in aviation, and I would certainly strongly encourage anybody to look at how they might contribute.
Definitely. I think absolutely really good words really to, I guess bring our debate and conversation today to conclusion. Really, guys, I just want to say thank you so much, Graham, Carl and Jyns, for your time. It's been really informative and very inspirational. And I hope everybody else has enjoyed it as much as I have. All this now leaves me to say is thank you again so much for our panel for giving up their time. And I wish you all a very good day. Thanks for your time. Bye.